I'm Amy from Doodle Dog Designs. In our camper, I have made some different fiber arts decorations and hung them on the wall above our beds. Our camper is an old style camper and it has two twin beds. So over one, I've hung a rug hooked project and some pictures, and then on the other one, I've made different fiber arts things, and I feel like it needs one or two more things to really fill out the wall. So today I am going to try my hand at crazy quilting. I am not an experienced crazy quilter, but I got this book at used book sale the other day, and it's got a lot of really neat looking projects in it. Our camper is a silver aluminum camper, and so all of the little projects I have hung in a silver hoop. So I have a couple of hoops in a few different sizes. The largest one is 7 inches. So I'm going to make it that big, and then I'll decide later how big exactly I want it to be. So to start, I took a piece of plain cotton fabric and I cut it to be larger than the largest hoop. So the largest hoop is 7 inches, so I cut it to be 10 inches square, and then that will be my foundation fabric, and I will sew everything onto it. And then I'm going to go through my scrap basket of fabrics and see what I have that would work well for this project. Oh, the nice thing about the crazy quilting is you don't have to use all just cottons. You can use whatever fabric you have on hand. You could use a satiny or a velvet or anything you have. So I'm going to make my quilt out of these fabrics here. I have some that I've used in the camper for other projects. This one is curtains in the kitchen, and I made a little dish towel out of that one. And this one is the upholstery around the bed, and this, I'm not sure if I'll use it, but it is also upholstery around the couch. And then I have some others that I just feel like go well together. And this one's a satiny one that I'm going to throw in, and then this one is a fleecy type one that I'm going to throw in also. So I had this fabric here, and I cut out a pentagon shape. It's not a perfect pentagon. It doesn't have to be perfect for this project. So I'm going to put it in the middle. If you wanted your pentagon to be perfect, you could find a pentagon template online. I'm going to put it in the middle of my base piece of fabric. So now I'm just going to cut a strip of one of these fabrics. And then I'm going to lay it down so the right sides are together. This one doesn't matter. It doesn't have a right side or wrong side. And line up the edges here. And then I'm going to sew through all 3 layers right along the edge of that piece of fabric, and then I can turn it and I'll have my first seam. So now I will just turn this over and press it, and I have the first seam done. So I'm going to go around the pentagon, and so my next piece, I'm going to put it along this next edge, but I'm going to have it go all the way to the end here so it will cover up both of those. Then I'm going to go to this next edge here, so now I just have one last edge here. I think I'm going to use this piece. Okay, now that I have the pentagon completely surrounded, I'm just going to keep going around in the circle, and now I will put one along this edge here. The further you get into the project, the longer your strips need to be. I'm a little bit concerned about this right here. I'm going to go down just a little bit and not have it quite even with the edge, and that way by the time I get my 1/4 inch seam here, it should be enough to cover up. I don't want to have that white showing through. I sewed that one on upside down, so I will have to take it back out and do it again. Watching this after the fact, I can see that I made another mistake right here. I should have put a piece on this piece of fabric right here, and I skipped that piece. I had been holding off on using this satin because I didn't want to have to be pressing over it a lot, so I'm going to use it here at the end. I just realized that this spot here where I can see this fabric through here, I thought I just hadn't brought everything over far enough. I should have sewn one right there, but I'm not going to go back and fix it. I think that a crazy quilt isn't supposed to be perfect, and my stuff is never perfect, so I'm going to leave it, and I put some kind of embellishment there to cover up that little spot. I've heard that the Amish sew a mistake into their quilts on purpose just so that you can tell it was made by a person. But I clearly don't have to do that. I can see several other things that I did wrong also here. But I like the way it looks, so I'm going to leave it as is and finish it up. I did check to make sure that it was big enough for my hoop, and then I just trimmed off the edges. I was originally thinking I would use this bigger hoop, which it's big enough for that too, but then I realized that all of my other projects that I've hung in the camper, the hoops have this more aged look to them, and this is the biggest hoop I have like that, so I'm going to use this one. So I have several different pieces of rickrack and lace that I'm going to add. I'm going to start with a piece of rickrack right here on this seam, so I'm going to put it and start right here, and I will end it right here. I'm not going to cut it until after I sew it, so I'm just going to sew right along the middle of the rickrack. Now I've got this piece of lace I'm going to add along this one right here. Then I'm going to use this wider piece of rickrack right along here, and if you'll notice, I'm covering up one side of each of my previous. So I'm covering up one edge of this, and I'm covering up one edge of this. So I've got those all on, and now I was thinking about adding some buttons again to hide that spot right there, and then one more piece of rickrack. I can see, or now that I'm done, there are several places where I didn't quite put it together correctly, but it still looks like a crazy quilt to me, and I'm happy with it. Okay, I think I will start by sewing on this button because it's the one that I want to be covering that spot. So make sure I get it in the right place. Okay. I'm not sure, since this button has a shank, that it's going to work and lay flat like I really would like it to. So I'm going to look for something different. Okay, so now I'm going to put it in my hoop. going to use my pinking shears, and I'm going to leave quite a bit of extra room, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches of extra fabric all the way around. I'm not going to measure it, just estimating here. Now I'm going to take a needle and thread. And I have my thread doubled over to give it a little bit more stability. And I'm going to sew a pretty big, just a gathering stitch, running stitch, all the way around. Then I can pull that tight, and that will just bring everything in and hold it in nicely. I'll tie that off. Now I could leave it like this, but I want to have a little bit more finished of a look to the back. So I cut a circle out of a piece of felt that's just a little bit smaller than the back. And then I have I think these are some kind of curtain hooks, these little plastic hooks, and that's what I'm going to hang it with. So I'm going to sew that onto my piece of felt. And I'm going to figure out where I want the top to be, and then I will put this so that will be at the top. Now I'm going to whip stitch the piece of felt onto the fabric that's in the back of the hoop. Be sure to click the like button and subscribe below. I'll see you next time. Bye.